How many people have ever heard the phrase that people are our most important asset? How many people have used that phrase? Right? You've used it. So let me ask you this question. How many people here own a car? Just keep your hands up. Own a house, a condo, something that you would consider to be a physical asset? So that's pretty much everybody owns something like that? A dog, a cat, something. You know. Would you ever cut that in half? Think about it, right? Sounds absurd. Would you ever live in half your house? Would you think about it? Would you ever slice it in half and say, I'm only going to live in half, I'm going to just leave the other half, just sitting there? Would you ever take your car and just use the front half of your car and front two wheels and leave the other two behind? Probably not. But we do it with people all the time. Isn't that a strange dynamic? Organizations do that with people all the time. I'm going to show you how. This is Sally. Sally is a high-performing, high-potential employee of a very important company. Her company is actually in the energy business. They are a really important up-and-coming organization, and Sally is one of their most critical executives. See, a lot of the thought leadership on their product comes out of Sally's head. Sally's been incredibly successful, great family, moving up the ranks, and suddenly they're starting to notice a change in her behavior. Not as focused, not as there, not as creative. What happened to Sally? And then there's Tina. Tina, you actually can't tell from this picture, is a nurse. But Tina, life circumstances never allowed Tina to get a bachelor's degree. So she's working in a hospital, and the hospital required her to go back to school to get a bachelor's degree. Now, Tina wanted to do this. She's excited about it. So here Tina is in the library with a big smile on her face. But Tina's been showing up at work for her shift, critical care nurse. Less motivated, less engaged, less energized. What the heck has happened to our Tina? And then there's Ron. Rockin' Ron, they call him. Rockin' Ron because every time they need Ron, Ron is there. Ron takes every travel engagement, goes on every assignment, works for a large consumer products company, often requires people to be on the road. Ron is one of the top salespeople. An outstanding person. But guess what? New client opportunity presented itself. They went to Ron to say, Ron, Rockin' Ron, you're going to get this sale. Guess what Ron said? I'm not going. Wow. What happened to Ron? So the question is, what can we do as organizations, right? So we're left to question what happened. And with all the hindsight, maybe we can observe behavioral changes or things in the environment that might have caused that to shift. What happened? But is figuring out what happened enough? Or do we need to get to micro-insights that can allow us to better predict what could happen? Micro-insights, not the big questions, like how do you feel about our company, Rockin' Ron? How do you feel about going back to school, Tina? Or how do you feel about your supervisor, Sally? Really, how are you doing, Sally, Tina, and Ron? Because ultimately, how you're doing will define how we do. So Sally, her husband just lost his job. Her parents moved in. Her dad is ill. She has 2 children. One is struggling cognitively and emotionally. She's the chief breadwinner now and is finding out that they can't make ends meet. Now they're struggling to pay the bills. She's been successful when she felt like she had it in control. Now she's out of control. She doesn't know where to turn. She needs financial support and help so that she can put together a better budget plan so that she can see her way through the current reality that she's facing. That's her priority because she knows she doesn't want her family to be homeless, but they're close. She's on the edge. High potential at work, facing homelessness. Then there's Tina. Tina, critical care nurse, feeling obligated to go back to work, wants to make a contribution for her company, wants to better herself, doesn't know how to navigate that life journey, doesn't know that she can get work-life credits and that she can be guided through great counseling to a better answer. She's trying to do it on her own, and she's struggling with it. And as a result, she's not sleeping at night, and she's showing up, a critical care nurse, falling asleep on her job. Judgment impaired. Not by some outside substance, but by her own ambition. She needs help, but she's not getting it. Then there's Rockin' Ron. Rockin' Ron and his partner just found out that his partner has to move out of state. And so Ron now is faced with this really dilemma, this big dilemma. I'm in a committed relationship, married to my partner, and he's moving. And more than that, I just found out I'm sick. I'm not well. And now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to have the support system that I thought I had, because this is not where I'm from, it's where my partner is from. My partner is leaving, I'm staying, but I need to understand what I can do. I need to figure out my support system. I need to figure out how to make my life okay again in this moment. I don't have the cognitive availability I had before when I was rockin' Ron. Now I'm struggling, Ron, and I need help. So I would argue that it's foresight. It's foresight. It's understanding not the half of the person, the whole of the person that really is what creates value in organizations. It's putting the house back together, putting the car back together. It's understanding that people don't just treat work like it is an extension of themselves. Life allows work in, not the other way around. And the more that we can understand fundamentally about the whole person, the better we can help the whole person perform while they're at work. It becomes a productivity equation, but it really becomes a force multiplier in our organizations if we can get that right. Asking different questions. How are you? What are the stressors in your life? What are the things that are unmanaged areas of concern for you that we can maybe help you identify and develop solutions to address is one way to do that. Now, I get it, right? You mean we're going to be asking people about, like, their life? They're going to react to that. They're going to tell us, I mean, that, like, hands off. I don't want you knowing about what's going on in my life. But the reality is, for us as organizations, it's affecting us already. So why not know so we can do something about it, right? Why not give ourselves a chance to be able to help Sally, Tina, and Ron by understanding it and then choosing whether or not we want to address it or not, instead of having it surprise us when their productivity suffers and their performance deteriorates, particularly at times when we're really asking them. Because I can tell you, stress absolutely knows no boundaries. Now, let me introduce you to their last name. So we have Sally, Tom, and Ron, Ellis, Smith, and Samuelson. They are Team Stress. Sally, Tom, Ron, Ellis, Smith, and Samuelson. Team Stress. And they need help. And it knows no boundaries. Stress finds people, it follows them, it lives with them, it is them. And to the extent that we're not mitigating that at work, it's a challenge. And one of the biggest obstacles to that is not allowing people to be their whole selves, not allowing them to bring their whole selves at work and to make their whole contribution at work, because we just don't understand at times as organizations the reality that people need to know that we're supporting them as a person and as their employee. You know, no matter where we are, no matter what we do, one thing we can agree on, when we ask the question, are people your most valuable asset? The answer in any organization has to be yes, because people fundamentally are a part of most, if not all, organizations. Think about it. Institutes of higher education, fitness companies, pharmacy companies, churches, synagogues, the government, communities, neighborhoods, families, those are all organizations. They're human organizations. And human beings are relating in those organizations to one another and to the realities of their own environment and their own circumstance. And those things have an impact on how they perform in those moments. When people are stressed in their relationships, it tends to come out in how they relate to one another. When people are feeling on top of the world, it comes out in how they relate to one another. I'll tell you, Towers Perrin just did a study. Over 22,000 people in the sample. They just completed it. 22,000 people in the sample, North America and the UK, and then 12 countries in total. North America and the UK were in the sample. What they concluded in the study was that over half of that 22,000 folks reported themselves to be highly stressed. And because they were highly stressed, they said they were disengaged at work. Disengaged. I mean, unplugged at work. They were still sending their body, but they were unplugged at work. And so it is a very real challenge that people are facing. Now, the other part of that study that I didn't tell you is this. They only asked them about work stress. They only said, are you stressed at work? And half of those people said yes. So it's probably a fair conclusion to draw that the other half are stressed at home. And they just didn't ask them that question. And so as organizational leaders, our task is to really figure out that other half so we can solve to the needs of the complete whole. When we do that, that knowledge gets us to better insights. Those insights help us drive organizational value creation, right? People are our most important asset. Let's put them in the best position we possibly can to perform their best in sustainable ways. That's when you get sustainable contributions, and that's when you drive real human capital value in organizations. Thank you.